The heavy rain swallowed the bus station in the late afternoon. A poor boy stood waiting under the shelter, clutching his last few coins. Amid the rushing crowd, he saw an old woman, soaked, lost, and ignored by everyone. Without hesitation, he stepped forward to help and walked 5 miles through the rain to take her home, never realizing that this small act would spark a chain of events that would change both of their lives forever. Before we continue, tell us what time it is and where you're watching from, and subscribe because tomorrow I've got something extra special for you. The sky over Boston had been threatening rain all afternoon, but by 4:30 the clouds had made good on their promise. Heavy drops began to fall, slowly at first, then faster, harder, until the streets glistened with rushing water and the air itself seemed to turn gray with the downpour. At the South Side bus terminal, people hurried past each other with their heads down, newspapers held overhead, jacket collars turned up against the wind. Everyone was in a rush to get home, to get dry, to get somewhere warm. Everyone except one small figure standing perfectly still near the covered bench area. Noah Carter was 12 years old, though he often felt much older. Life has a way of making you grow up fast when you're the only child of a single mother working double shifts at the hospital. He stood there in his worn but clean jacket, one hand clutching the strap of his backpack, the other deep in his pocket where he could feel the 2 crumpled dollar bills and handful of change that represented his bus fare for the next 2 days. His father had taught him to read the sky before he passed away 3 years ago. Dad would point up at the clouds and say, "See those dark edges, Noah? That means rain's coming, maybe in an hour, maybe less. You gotta learn to read the signs, son. Weather, people, situations. Everything gives you signals if you pay attention." Noah had been paying attention today. He'd seen those dark clouds gathering since lunchtime at school, but he hadn't hurried. He never did. There was something peaceful about taking his time, watching the world, noticing the small details that most people rushed right past. That's probably why he noticed her. At first she was just another person at the bus stop, an elderly woman in an elegant but now thoroughly soaked coat, her gray hair plastered to her head, her hands trembling slightly as she gripped her purse. But while everyone else seemed to know where they were going, this woman looked utterly lost. She turned in a slow circle, her eyes scanning the posted bus routes on the terminal wall, then the street signs, then back to the routes again. Her confusion was visible, a tangible thing that seemed to hang around her like a fog separate from the rain. Noah watched as person after person walked right past her. A businessman in an expensive suit, a young couple sharing an umbrella, a group of teenagers laughing about something on someone's phone. They all saw her. He was sure of it. How could they not? But they kept walking, kept moving, kept their eyes carefully averted. His mother's voice echoed in his head. "Noah baby, I need you to be careful out there. Especially when it gets dark. You know there are neighborhoods we don't go through, right? You promise me you'll always take the bus, always stay in safe areas." He'd promised. He always kept his promises to Mom. But this woman needed help. Noah took a deep breath and walked over to her. Up close, he could see that her coat, despite being drenched, was expensive, real wool with mother-of-pearl buttons. Her purse was leather well made, the kind that lasts decades. Everything about her spoke of a life well lived, of dignity and grace, everything except the fear in her eyes. "Excuse me, ma'am," Noah said softly, not wanting to startle her. "Are you okay? Do you need help?" The woman turned to him, and for a moment, her face was blank, as if she was trying to remember who he was, or perhaps who she was. Then her eyes focused, and Noah saw something that made his chest tighten, relief mixed with shame. She started, then stopped. Her hand went to her forehead, as if trying to physically pull the words from her mind. I'm supposed to be somewhere. I live somewhere, but I can't." Her voice trailed off, and she looked at Noah with such profound confusion that he felt his own eyes start to sting. "It's okay," Noah said gently. "Do you have any ID, maybe something with your address?" The woman looked down at her purse as if seeing it for the first time. Her hands shook as she opened it. Inside was a jumble of items. A wallet, some tissues, a small pill bottle, a few receipts. Noah waited patiently as she pulled things out one by one, setting them on the bench beside her. Finally she found her wallet. Inside was a driver's license, though it had an expired sticker on it. Noah looked at the address, 1720 Beacon Hill Avenue. Beacon Hill, Noah knew that area. It was one of the wealthiest neighborhoods in Boston, with beautiful old Victorian houses and tree-lined streets. It was also about 5 miles away from where they stood, in a completely different direction from his own neighborhood. Mrs. Delacroix, Noah read from the license. Margaret Delacroix, is that you? Yes, the woman said, and relief flooded her face again. Yes, I'm Margaret, Margaret Delacroix. She repeated her own name as if testing it, as if making sure it still fit. Okay, Mrs. Delacroix, Noah said, I'm going to help you get home. Your address is 1720 Beacon Hill Avenue. Do you remember that? Beacon Hill, Margaret repeated slowly. Yes, I think, there are trees, big trees outside, and steps, stone steps up to the door. That sounds right, Noah encouraged. We're going to take the bus there, it's going to be okay. He looked at the bus route map on the wall. To get to Beacon Hill, they'd need to take the number 47 bus, which would arrive in about 10 minutes. The fare was $3 per person. Noah's hand went back to his pocket, feeling the bills and coins there. $6 total. That was exactly what he had for the next 2 days. $3 today, $3 tomorrow. If he used it all now to get Mrs. Delacroix home safely, he'd have nothing left. He'd have to walk to school tomorrow, and the next day. That meant leaving home at 6 in the morning instead of 7:30. It meant walking through neighborhoods his mother had specifically told him to avoid. It meant getting to school exhausted, his feet probably blistered, his body worn out before classes even started. But looking at Miss Delacroix, standing there soaked and confused and afraid, Noah knew there was only one choice he could make. Come on, he said, offering her his arm the way he'd seen people do in old movies. Let's get you home. Margaret took his arm gratefully, and Noah could feel how much she was leaning on him, how much she needed this support. They stood together under the terminal shelter as the rain continued to pound down around them. When the number 47 bus pulled up, Noah helped Margaret up the steep steps. He pulled out all his money, counted out $6 exactly, and pushed it through the fare box. The driver barely glanced at them as he handed over 2 transfers. Noah guided Margaret to a seat near the front, and sat down beside her. The bus was warm and smelled like wet clothes and diesel fuel. Outside, the city rolled past in a blur of gray rain and blurred lights. What's your name? Margaret asked suddenly. Her voice was clearer now, more present. Noah, Noah Carter. Noah, she repeated, like the ark, the flood, the rain. She gestured to the window and smiled, and for a moment Noah saw past the confusion to the person she must have been before, sharp and witty. Yes, ma'am, Noah said, smiling back. They rode in comfortable silence for a while. Noah watched the neighborhoods change outside the window. His own area gave way to downtown, then downtown gave way to nicer residential streets, then those gave way to Beacon Hill, where the houses got bigger and the trees got taller and everything just looked more established, more permanent. This is our stop, Noah said after 45 minutes, recognizing the street name from his mental map. He helped Margaret down from the bus, and they stood on the sidewalk in the rain. It had lessened somewhat, no longer the deluge it had been, but still steady and cold. Margaret looked around, and Noah watched as recognition dawned on her face. I know here, she said, pointing down the street. I know these houses. Which one is yours? Noah asked. Margaret walked forward with more confidence now, and Noah stayed close beside her. They passed several grand houses, each more beautiful than the last. Finally, Margaret stopped in front of a stunning 3-story Victorian, painted a soft cream color with dark green shutters. Stone steps, just as she'd remembered, led up to a heavy wooden door with an ornate brass knocker. This is home, Margaret said simply. Noah helped her up the steps. Before they could knock, the door flew open, and a man in his 60s wearing a vest and tie rushed out. Mrs. Delacroix, he exclaimed, his voice thick with relief and worry. Oh, thank God. We've been looking everywhere for you. When you didn't come back from your walk, we were so worried. I got a bit turned around, James, Margaret said apologetically. But this young man helped me. The man James looked at Noah for the first time, really looked at him. His eyes took in Noah's soaked jacket, his worn sneakers, his tired face. Then they softened. Son, I don't know how to thank you, James said. You brought Mrs. Delacroix home safely. Please come inside. Let us give you something, a reward. No thank you, Noah said quickly. I'm just glad she's home safe. I should get going. But it's still raining, James protested. At least let me call you a car, or I'm fine. Noah insisted. Really, take care of Mrs. Delacroix. He turned to leave, but Margaret caught his hand. Noah, she said, and her eyes were completely clear now, completely present. Thank you, you have a good heart, don't ever lose that. I won't, Noah promised. He walked down the stone steps and back out into the rain. Behind him, he heard the heavy door close, and then there was just the sound of water hitting pavement and the distant rumble of thunder. Noah looked around, getting his bearings. He was 5 miles from home. It was 5:15 now, and the sky was already getting dark thanks to the storm. He had no money left for the bus. He would have to walk. He set off, head down against the rain, retracing the bus route in reverse. His sneakers squelched with every step. Water dripped down his neck from his soaked hair. The backpack on his shoulders felt like it weighed 100 pounds. The first mile wasn't too bad. He was still in Beacon Hill, where the streets were well lit and people occasionally passed by, safely under umbrellas. But as he walked, the neighborhoods changed again, going backward through the progression he'd watched from the bus window. By mile 2, he was in an area his mother had specifically warned him about. The street lights were fewer and farther between. Some of them were broken. The houses were smaller, many of them dark. Groups of men stood on corners, their eyes following Noah as he passed. He kept his head down, walked fast, tried to look like he knew exactly where he was going. A dog barked from behind a chain-link fence, making Noah jump. His heart was pounding now, and not just from the walking. Every shadow seemed threatening. Every sound made him turn his head. By mile 3, his legs were aching. His feet had developed painful blisters inside his soaked sneakers. He was shivering uncontrollably, his teeth chattering so hard it hurt his jaw. By mile 4, he wasn't sure he was going to make it. He stopped under an overpass to catch his breath, leaning against the cold concrete wall. His whole body was shaking. He felt dizzy and his chest hurt from breathing hard. But he couldn't stop for long. It wasn't safe here. Nowhere was safe here. He pushed off from the wall and kept walking. By the time he reached his own neighborhood, it was 8:45 at night, nearly 5 hours since he'd left the bus terminal. The rain had finally stopped, but Noah barely noticed. He could see his apartment building up ahead, the lights from their third-floor window like a beacon. He climbed the stairs slowly, each step an effort. His hand shook as he pulled out his key and unlocked the door. His mother was in the kitchen, still in her nurse's scrubs from the hospital. She turned when she heard the door, and her face went through a rapid series of expressions: relief, confusion, and then anger. Noah Benjamin Carter, she said, her voice rising. Do you have any idea? It's 8:45, you were supposed to be home by 6. I'm sorry, Mom, Noah said. His voice came out hoarse and weak. My phone died. Where have you been? I was about to call the police. Grace Carter crossed the room in 3 quick strides and grabbed Noah's shoulders. Then she felt how wet he was, how cold. Her anger immediately shifted to concern. Noah, you're soaked through. What happened? Why didn't you take the bus? And that's when the whole story came tumbling out. Noah told her about Mrs. Delacroix, about her confusion and fear, about using his bus money to get her home safely, about the long walk back through the rain and the dangerous neighborhoods. As he spoke, Grace's face changed again. The anger melted away completely, replaced by something Noah couldn't quite read. Pride, sadness, both. When he finished, Grace pulled him into a tight hug, not caring that he was getting her scrubs all wet. Oh baby, she whispered, what you did was beautiful and brave and kind. But Noah, you could have been hurt. Those neighborhoods. I know, Mom, Noah interrupted. I know it was dangerous, but I couldn't just leave her there. Nobody else was helping. Grace pulled back and looked at her son's face, really looked at it. When had he gotten so mature? When had her baby boy become someone who would sacrifice his own safety and comfort for a stranger? You're right, she said finally. You did the right thing. I'm proud of you, Noah, so proud. But now we need to get you into dry clothes and warmed up. You're shivering. She helped him out of his wet jacket and shoes. His feet were red and raw with blisters. His skin was pale and cold to the touch. Grace ran him a hot bath and made him sit in it until the shivering stopped, then wrapped him in warm pajamas and made him drink hot tea with honey. But by then, the damage was done. Noah woke up the next morning feeling like he'd been hit by a truck. Every muscle in his body ached. His throat was sore. His head felt fuzzy and hot. Mom, he called out. his voice barely above a whisper. Grace came into his room immediately. One look at his flushed face told her everything she needed to know. She pressed her hand to his forehead and winced. "You're burning up, baby," she said. She went to get the thermometer and came back. When she checked it, her mouth pressed into a thin line. 101 degrees. "You're staying home from school today." "But Mom," Noah started to protest. "No buts. You walked 5 miles in the freezing rain yesterday. Your body needs to rest." Grace looked at the clock. It was 6:30 in the morning. Her shift at St. Mary's Hospital started at 7. She was supposed to be getting ready to leave right now, but there was no way she could leave Noah alone like this. She picked up her phone and called the hospital, asking for Linda Moore, her nursing supervisor. "Linda, I'm so sorry, but I can't come in for my shift today," Grace explained, keeping her voice calm, even though her stomach was twisting with anxiety. "Noah is really sick. His fever is 101, and he can't go to school. I need to stay with him." There was a long pause on the other end of the line. Then Linda's voice came back, cold and professional. "Grace, you've already used your sick days for the year, and your personal days. You called out twice last month." "I know," Grace said, glancing toward Noah's room. "But Linda, he's 12 years old. I can't leave him alone like this. He needs me." "Grace, we all have responsibilities. If you can't fulfill your commitments to this hospital, then maybe you need to reconsider whether this position is right for you." The threat was clear. Grace felt tears prick at her eyes, but she blinked them back. "I understand," she said quietly. "But I still can't come in today. My son needs me." "Then I'll mark it as an unexcused absence," Linda said. "You know what that means for your record." "Yes," Grace said. "I know." She hung up the phone and sat down at the kitchen table, putting her head in her hands. She couldn't afford to lose this job. She was a single mother with no savings, no family to fall back on. The hospital job was everything: their rent money, their food money, their health insurance. Without it, they would have nothing. But looking toward Noah's room, where she could hear him coughing weakly, she knew she'd made the right choice. He came first. He would always come first. Grace spent that Wednesday taking care of Noah. She made him drink water and take medicine. She used cool cloths on his forehead to try to bring the fever down. She checked his temperature every hour, watching with growing concern as it climbed higher and higher. By noon it was 102 degrees. By 3 in the afternoon, 103 degrees. Grace's nurse training kicked in. Fever climbing this high this fast. Wet cough developing. Chest pain when he breathed. Chills despite the fever. This was more than just a cold. This was potentially pneumonia. She sat beside his bed as the afternoon faded into evening, monitoring his breathing, watching his color, trying to decide what to do. They had no money for an emergency room visit. She just